Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today we have a video sent in by two first-time footage contributors. On the left we see Søren Pedersen piloting Barzul the Hatebound, whereas on the right we have Martin Kriegsbaum instead employing Commander Shadowsun. Tau starts off with initiative and Planet 1 is Karnath, the planet which allows you to trigger the battle ability of any other planet in play. In Shadowsun's HQ, she's gained a copy of the unique, limited keyword 1-cost support, Salvage Enclave, which, upon deploying a non-Tau faction army unit, she's now got the option of exhausting that support in order to decrease its resource cost by 2. Then, for Barzul, he tosses out a copy of the 0-cost Promise of Glory, he generates two 1/1 cultist tokens in his HQ, and now whenever he deploys a demon, he can sacrifice either or both of those tokens to decrease its resource cost by 1 or 2 depending. Looks like there's a whole hell of a lot going on at planet number 1. Both of our players has thrown out a copy of their respective elites. For Shadowsun, we've got a copy of the Space Marine faction common elite army unit, Fire Drake Terminators, a 5-cost 2-command icon 3/6, which, whenever it's declared defender, it deals 1 point of damage to its attacker prior to the full resolution of that attack. Then, on the opposite end of the table for Chaos, we've got a 6-cost Soul Grinder, a Chaos Elite with 2 command icons. It's a 4/6, but whenever you win a command struggle, your opponent has to sacrifice a non-warlord. So, to no one's surprise, both warlords end up sent to that planet. Shadowsun's reaction triggers. That's a copy of Shadowsun's Stealth Cadre currently attached to the Fire Drake Terminators, boosting it up to a 5/8. Planet number 1, neither player wins command. Planet number 2, where sits a copy of Righteous Initiate, that's going to be a couple of cards for Shadowsun. And planet number 5, where sits a Void Pirate, that is going to be a card and 2 resources for Barzul. Barzul spends 2 as a combat action. Archon's Terror routes that 5/8 Fire Drake Terminators, and now Commander Shadowsun's probability of winning the battle at planet number 1 just dropped to 0. Shadowsun has the first action, first combat turn. She retreats. The Void Pirate, that 1-cost 0/1 1-command icon plus 1 card bonus economy unit, is outright destroyed by the Bloodied Reavers swinging for 4. That's going to be Karnath 1 by Søren, and he is triggering Eloith, so he looks at the top 3 cards, adds 1 to his hand, and then puts the remaining 2 on the bottom of his deck. At planet number 1, that Bloodied Reavers is going to bounce to Barzul's HQ with the Soul Grinder. It's a 2-cost 2/2 with command icon, and as one of the Warlord friends, whenever a Warlord is present at the same planet, the Bloodied Reavers get so excited it gets an ephemeral +2 attack value bonus. We're in the process of going through an HQ phase here. Both of our players comes across 4 resources and 2 cards apiece. The initiative token now takes up residence in Barzul's, general playmat vicinity, and this happens to be the first time that Søren and Martin are recording. Unfortunately, planet number 1 is currently off screen, but just remember, it's Eloith, the blue technology icon possessing planet, and the Righteous Initiate is currently sitting at that location, so of paramount importance to remember that, and hopefully as these fellows send in additional videos, their quality only stands to improve in time. But we've got a copy of the unique signature support, Keru Arameus, in the HQ of Barzul, and as a combat action, prior to any battle being resolved, you pick a non-first planet, and you resolve a battle at that location. So that could be that Void Pirate at 4, winning a battle entirely uncontested, and that would be +1 resource for Søren going into, the remaining battles of that turn's combat phase, and -1 resource for Martin. So it's a bit of a combat trick for Barzul, and out of all the cards in his signature squad, it's definitely my personal favorite, and who's not a fan of a Space Hulk in any context. Planet number 1, we see a Void Pirate for Shadowsun. Planet number 5, we've got a copy of Rogue Trader taking up residence at Aatrox Prime, so it's manning the batteries, I'm sure. It's going to be a 1-cost 0/1 with a command icon and a +1 resource bonus, the resource equivalent of the ubiquitous Void Pirate. So, planet number 2, we've got a second copy of Fire Drake Terminators 4, the modified cost of 3, therefore Salvage Enclave has thus far saved 4 resources. And that's another unit where, when it's declared defender, you deal a point of damage to its attacker prior to the attacker being able to resolve their attack. And because that's a Space Marine source of damage, it's even Crushing Blow eligible. So we'll have to see what exactly occurs here. I wouldn't be surprised to see either of our players send their Warlords to planet number 2, because for Barzul, Warlords generally win command by default. Barzul is going to be bringing a Soul Grinder with him, so if he shows up at 2 and Shadowsun does not, that means a command struggle is won by Barzul, and the Fire Drake Terminators as a 5-cost elite is going to have to be sacrificed, and that would about suck. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Shadowsun arrive at planet number 2 just to make sure that that fate does not befall her Terminators. And yes, it looks like both players send their Warlords to planet number 2. At planet number 1, we've got a copy of that Righteous Initiate, and I can only imagine that we're going to be seeing that battle 1 uncontested, but keep your eyes on the Keru Aramaeus here. Planet number 1 is going to be 2 cards, a total of 3 cards, owing to that off-screen Void Pirate for Shadowsun. Planet number 2, Shadowsun's going to pick up a card. Planet 4 is going to be a couple of resources and a card for Barzul, and planet number 5 is going to be a card and a resource for Barzul as well. Planet number 1 is presumably going to be 1 entirely uncontested. That's going to be another trigger of Eloith, and that's going to be a blue tech icon added to Martin's victory display there, our Shadowsun player. But it looks like Keru Aramaeus is going to be triggering, but unfortunately, I guess we could resolve our battle at Iridial, but there are no resources in Shadowsun's HQ, therefore it's not going to do any good to trigger at Ossus 4 and win, that resource steal, because it's not doing anything, and Aatrox Prime isn't going to have any HQ targets to fire at, so there it looks like we're seeing Eloith resolved. That means both of our players are going to have a blue tech icon, but Barzul's also going to have the added benefit of a red material type icon, and therefore if Barzul ends up winning the battle at say 2 and then 3, he might be able to win the game through, well, hell, I guess if he wins, if he wins at 2 and 3, he could win the game through red icons. Otherwise, Shadowsun's going to have to win. Like, Shadowsun just picked up planet 1. If she gets 2 and then 5, that could be the game for her. Or she could go 2, 3, 4 and win through green strong point icons. But looks like we've got a signature event, Blood for the Blood God, being played at planet number 1, so all undamaged units end up taking 1 point of damage. Note that Barzul as a 0-5, because those units at his planet survived that damage, you could shift that damage back onto him, and it looks like just everything took a single solitary point of damage. So in Shadowsun's HQ, we've got a copy of that Righteous Initiate and the Void Pirate. Barzul's got initiative at planet number 1. His only unexhausted unit is indeed Barzul. I can only imagine that Barzul's going to be taking a shot at Shadowsun because he doesn't want to take a point of damage unnecessarily from those Fire Drake Terminators. And see here, the Fire Drake Terminators that are ready take a swing of 3, and that is going to be a very dead copy of Bloodied Reavers there. So the Bloodied Reavers are going to be obliterated. They were a 4-1 up until a moment ago, and now they are absolutely mulched. Commander Shadowsun takes a shot at Barzul, or Commander Shadowsun takes an attack at the Soul Grinder. It doesn't shield, and then the damage is transferred over to Barzul. A 6 HP reservoir is great if you want to be able to take a lot of damage and shift a lot of damage over to Barzul. We come to the end of a combat round, all of our units ready, Shadowsun retreats, and that is going to be a second copy of Archon's Terror for the cost of 2, again removing that 5-7 Fire Drake Terminators from that planet, and now it's just going to be the Soul Grinder and the Fire Drake Terminators. The Soul Grinder takes a swing, dropped down to 2 thanks to the Repulsor Impact Fields. That Fire Drake Terminators has thus far taken 3 points of damage. Its reaction dealt a point of damage to the Soul Grinder, and now we see the Fire Drake Terminators. They're going to be able to take a swing. The Soul Grinder is going to be able to survive no matter what, and that could be damage transferred over to Barzul. Tzeentch's Firestorm is discarded as a shield. That's just going to be 1 point of damage to that Soul Grinder. Interesting, of course, that Barzul's not taking any of this damage himself. You generally want him to be bloodied so that he only has maybe 1 or 2 at most battles to participate in. We see a copy of Squadron Redeployment hit the discard pile for some reason. Barzul is forced to attack. That Squadron Redeployment is taken back. Barzul is forced to attack the Fire Drake Terminators, and even though he doesn't deal damage, he does have to take a point of damage damage, and it looks like that's what our players are talking through at the moment. So yeah, as soon as they're declared defender, as soon as you declare the attacker, they deal a point of damage, and there you go, Barzul at 3 points of damage. And we come to the end of a combat round here. I wonder what that squadron redeployment business was all about. We see the Soul Grinder, which still has initiative, swing for 4. It looks like it's at a total of 4 damage, so we are maybe seeing a copy of Crushing Blow being played. We would need 2 copies of Crushing Blow for that to be able to kill the Fire Drake Terminators, and it looks like, okay, maybe that's a take-back gesture there that Martin made. So auxiliary armor is going to be discarded as a shield, and therefore that's only going to be 2 points of damage dealt to the Soul Grinder. The Fire Drake Terminators take a swing, which is going to be modified all the way down to 0, courtesy of the Butcher's Nails, and I can only imagine that at some point Barzul has retreated, because otherwise he'd have to keep sitting at that planet and keep taking points of damage, potentially unnecessary, from the Fire Drake Terminators. So let us see here. We're approaching the end of a combat round. It looks like there's maybe 3 or 4 damage tokens. It looks like 4 on the Soul Grinder, and I believe the Fire Drake Terminators just has 1 single solitary hit point remaining at most. God, it's difficult to tell with that card art when those... Okay, yeah, so it's clearly 5 on the Fire Drake Terminators, and let's see, at the end of a combat round, our Chaos player is going to have to decide whether or not he wants to retreat first. Okay, looks like do we have an... Okay, Commander Shadowsun doesn't have any available resources for an eager recruit or anything along those lines, so our units have yet to ready. Now we're readying, and then we have the end of a combat round. Both players are staying. The Soul Grinder is going to take his swing, and is that going to be a dead Fire Drake Terminators or not? Do we have a 4-value shield card? And of course the answer is no, but I guess we could have Indomitable, but then again Shadowsun doesn't have the resources required to play it, so that's going to be a dead copy of Fire Drake Terminators, and I guess, like, the Chaos player had to indicate that he wasn't going to retreat first, so... Perhaps Martin was trying to bluff or something like that, but you can't really bluff after the fact, so why just have your Fire Drake Terminators hang out and get killed? That kind of sucks, but regardless, that's Iridial being activated. That's going to be... I mean, that's going to be the healing planet activating, and that Soul Grinder is going to go from 4 or 5 total points of damage back down to 0, and now it's nicely set up at our current planet number 1, and of course, it's a 2-command icon unit. If you win a command struggle, your opponent has to sacrifice a non-warlord, so Commander Shadowsun's movement is going to be heavily restricted as we move past an HQ phase. Each player now has 2 additional cards, 4 resources they didn't have before. We've got a copy of Recon Drones played by the initiative token possessing Shadowsun at 3. For the cost of 0, it's a limited keyword, 2-command icon 0/1. It's beating that Void Pirate in command. Note that the last planet we're going to be seeing this game is currently Yavvarn. It's got a copy of Slaaneish's Temptation affixed to it, so that's the unique 2-cost attachment where, whenever Shadowsun deploys a unit to anywhere apart from that planet, she has to pay an additional +1 resource, and kind of to, rub additional salt into that wound, the only way to remove that attachment from play is to trigger a battle at that planet, and Shadowsun herself, her movement is going to be rather confined because she's got a 5/7 Fire Drake Terminator and a Void Pirate and a Righteous Initiate in her HQ. At planet number 1, we've got a copy of Blood Angels Veterans, and now things are looking rather crappy indeed for Shadowsun. We've got a copy of Barzul's Cleavers at planet number 1. The Blood Angels Veterans is a 3-cost, 1-command icon, 3/3 soldier. So long as it remains ready whenever you deal it damage, you ignore the first point of damage. Yeah, but what sucks about that is we've currently got 3 command icons at planet number 1. That means that if Shadowsun shows up at planet number 1, if Barzul also shows up at planet number 1, there's going to be nothing to stop the Soul Grinder from forcing our Space Marine player from sacrificing a unit. We do see that copy of a Squadron Redeployment used, so that means you take one of your units that has an attachment, you exhaust it, and then you move it to whatever planet you'd like. Squadron Redeployment has resulted in that Fire Drake Terminator being moved to planet number 1, but now we've got a copy of Promotion on that Soul Grinder, so the Soul Grinder itself has got 4 command icons, and yeah, things are just not boding well at all for Shadowsun unless she's got some Indomitables in hand. So let's see what could happen. This isn't exactly disastrous defeat for our Space Marine allied Tau player, but let's just see how things go. That Barzul's Cleavers at 1 is going to be a 3-cost, 1 command icon, 2/5. As an action, it can deal itself 2 points of damage to give itself a +2 attack value bonus, which persists only for its next attack during that current phase. Normally, that's damage you could transfer over to Barzul, and I guess let's just see how everything ends up going here. Barzul looks to have been cleared of damage at some point. Perhaps he actually ended up being bloodied? I cannot quite tell based on his art. But regardless, yeah, it looks like he is bloodied. So I guess Barzul is at planet number 1 as a 3/11. We'll find out rather quickly whether or not he can deal damage, but Barzul and Shadowsun both arrive at planet number 1, so that's going to be a Void Pirate and that Righteous Initiate dropped off at that planet. So planet number 1, that's going to be 5 command icons for Barzul. Therefore, Barzul is going to earn a card. At planet number 3, that's going to be 2 resources for Shadowsun. Note that Salum Enclave has been used again, so that's, I think, a total of 6 resources thus far saved. At planet number 4, that is going to be a total of a card and 2 resources for Barzul. And now we've got the Keru Aramaeus, resulting in a battle being resolved. So I can only imagine that was Aatrox Prime being resolved, that battle ability. Okay, yep, so that was a dead recon drones killed by Aatrox Prime. Looks like we had a bit of a take back in regard to discarding that copy of Crushing Blow, but the recon drones did at least gain a couple of resources for Martin, and it prevented his opponent from getting the same and from drawing 1 card. So even though you died in glorious combat, Recon Drone, my heart really goes out to you. I thank you for your service. And let us see. So at planet number 1, the initiative is in the possession of Shadowsun. I can only imagine that as her forced unit sacrifice, she decided to go through with getting rid of that copy of Void Pirate. Looks like this is maybe okay, so I happened to miss what it was, god damn it, but Shadowsun has put an attachment on the Blood Angels veterans. Perhaps it was that auxiliary armor is what it looks like, and if that's the case, that means the Blood Angels veterans is actually going to be a 5/4 with an additional command icon, but Commander Shadowsun has initiative. She's going to be taking a swing directed at, it looks like, Barzul the Hatebound. Barzul's Cleavers deals 2 points of damage to itself, and it does indeed look like Barzul is bloodied. And let's see if we can result in, I guess, assassinating Barzul. His pool of 11 total hit points does not mean that he is invulnerable. So Barzul's Cleavers takes a swing for 4. Shadowsun is now rather grievously wounded, but if Shadowsun is going to be able to win this battle at Iridial, I mean, whoever wins is going to be able to strip potentially a whole hell of a lot of damage off of their Warlord. We see that Blood Angels veteran swing for a massive 5 directed toward Barzul, and it's currently looking like he's got 6 points of damage. That Soul Grinder takes a swing. Is that going to be a bloodied Shadowsun? I guess let's see it. Shadowsun is currently a 1/7. She's able to return, 2 or lower cost Tau faction attachments from your discard pile into play or move them from your hand, and yep, it looks like that is going to be a bloodied copy of Shadowsun, so I believe she drops to either a 1/5 or a 1/6, and I guess now all the healing in the world isn't going to be too tremendously useful there for Shadowsun, so let's hope that gambit definitely paid off, because man, that about sucks to get your Warlord bloodied, and Commander Shadowsun is a hell of a Warlord to even be bloodying in the first place. So Barzul swings for 3, directed toward the Blood Angels Veterans, that's currently a 5/4. We see a copy of 4, the Tau Va, discarded as a shield, and therefore that's only going to be a couple of points of damage on that Blood Angels Veterans, which no longer gets to derive the benefit of preventing damage, considering it's not ready. The Righteous Initiate, I believe, has yet to take any damage at that planet, so therefore it's still only a 1/2 for 2 with a command icon. At the end of the combat round, it looks like Barzul is retreating all of his units. So that is going to be Iridial triggering, and that is going to be some damage removed from our big, powerful army unit there at that planet. So it looks like that copy of Auxiliary Armor is actually on the Righteous Initiate, and judging by the 2 shield icons, just by the process of elimination, I can only imagine that was a repulsor impact field on that Blood Angels Veterans. So when Barzul ended up taking that damage, when Barzul attacked that Blood Angels Veterans, he must have taken damage from that repulsor impact field, and he's currently sitting on a hell of a lot of damage. Iridial is off the table, and now Barzul is going to be a tremendous liability for whichever player ends up wherever Barzul goes, he's potentially going to cost Søren the game just because he's got so much damage on him, and the instant he dies, that's going to be GG right there. But we've gone through another HQ phase, 4 resources, 2 cards for each of our players. Note that Shadowsun has got 2 blue icons, a red icon, and a green icon. So if Shadowsun wins the next couple of planets in line, that could be Shadowsun winning the game. But Shadowsun is bloodied, and Barzul is rather badly wounded, so Salum Enclave again is used. That's going to be 8 resources in total spared. We've got another copy of Righteous Initiate at our current planet number 3. It's got the Unstoppable specialization, so the first time it takes damage during any given round, you prevent the first point thereof, and it gets a +2 attack value bonus, which lasts until the end of the phase, so it can potentially swing quite a few times. And in the context of having a lot of nasty attachments affixed to it, that definitely makes it one hell of a unit indeed. So at planet number 1, we've got a copy of Bloodied Reavers. We've now got economy units kind of distributed throughout the board by Barzul, and it looks like we've got a copy of what appears to be a Shadowsun stealth cadre played conventionally on that Righteous Initiate. So that's going to... that is a copy of Gun Drones. So that is going to be Area Effect 2 on that Righteous Initiate, and that is going to be a hell of a thing because it's going to take a swing of at least 3 just to kill off that unit. That's not exactly unheard of, but let us see what all is going to happen. Both of our players have got a whole hell of a lot of units in their respective HQs. Shadowsun and Barzul both arrive at planet number 3, and this is going to get interesting. Barzul's got the initiative, but if he does not retreat, he's going to risk being rather grievously wounded. So Shadowsun is bloodied. She's only got 5 or 6 hit points standing between her and being outright destroyed, and Barzul, maybe at best, has 4 or 5 hit points remaining. It's so difficult to tell with those damage tokens. So let's see. Planet number 1 is going to be a card and a resource for Barzul. Planet 2 is going to be a card and 2 resources for Barzul. Planet number 3 is going to be 2 command icons. I guess, so it's 2 command icons for Shadowsun, and it is how many command icons? No, I'm sorry, it's just 1 command icon for Shadowsun, so at planet number 2, at planet 3, it is 2 command icons for Barzul, so that should be the Soul Grinder forcing a non-Warlord unit to be sacrificed at that planet, and I don't think we've seen that yet, and I believe, therefore, we must have missed it. Planet number 1, that is Karnath, that was won by Barzul the Hatebound. Looks like we saw the Keru Arameus doing perhaps a resource steal because that Void Pirate is currently uncontested, and I've kind of lost track of command struggles at this point. I apologize, but let's say Planet 3 was a card and a resource for our Chaos player, and then Planet 4 was a couple of resources for our Chaos player, but it looks like the Bloodied Reavers just took a swing of 4 at that Righteous Initiate. The Righteous Initiate was shielded by a heavy marker drone, so that's going to be 4 damage minus 2 is only 2 Unstoppable specialization triggers. That's going to be just 1 point of damage dealt to the Righteous Initiate, and now we're seeing Area Effect 2 being resolved. I can only imagine that's going to be a rather dead economy unit, a rather dead copy of Bloodied Reavers, and now Barzul is definitely going to have to get way the hell away from that planet as quickly as possible. So looks like our players are maybe currently in the process of resolving all of their command struggles, and I guess let's see what exactly is going to be happening, because that was a lot of resources kind of gained all out of nowhere. So for Barzul, he's got a mountain of damage tokens on his Warlord. He's going to have to be retreating from that planet. Perhaps we didn't actually see Area Effect 2 being resolved, because I am not seeing any shield icons that were discarded and would have therefore been able to, preserve those Bloodied Reavers and whatnot. But Commander Shadowsun is taking a swing. She herself incurred 3 points of damage from Barzul, and I guess that's going to be okay, maybe we had a delayed resolution there on that Area Effect 2, because, we must have, because now the Bloodied Reavers die, the Rogue Trader dies at the end of a combat round there, we've got a seriously wounded Shadowsun, we've got an even more seriously, just barely hanging on to life, Barzul. I guess at the end of a combat round there, that's Barzul has retreated, and I guess we also see a copy of Bloodied Reavers that was at planet number 1 bounced to his HQ. We've got the Barzul's Cleavers that had been seriously wounded by Area Effect and their previous attack, and the Soul Grinder takes a swing of 4, and thanks to Indomitable, that is going to be dropped down to 0, so unless I'm mistaken, I believe that Soul Grinder should have resulted in one of these units being sacrificed. We swap out some damage tokens, some resource tokens for damage tokens on Commander Shadowsun, and I guess what exactly are we seeing? That's going to be a dead Soul Grinder, it's going to be a dead Barzul's Cleavers. I guess what exactly is happening? So Aatrox Prime fires into the HQ of Barzul, and that means we're about to go into another HQ phase here. So it looks like for planet number 1, neither player is going to be able to win the game off of that planet. Shadowsun is going to need another blue icon, and it looks like we need another red icon for Barzul to be able to win at that planet. So the initiative is going to be bouncing back to Shadowsun. Both of our players are going to gain 4 resources and 2 cards apiece. And now it's going to be the first deploy action is going to be in the hands of Shadowsun. So Salem Enclave, I think at this point, if it gets used again, that'll be a whopping 10 resources, so that is just proving to be one hell of an early game card. Hopefully there aren't too many additional copies potentially clogging up Shadowsun's hand, but if they're just sitting in her deck, then that doesn't really bother anybody. We've got an Earthcast Technician played at planet number 1. You search your deck for a drone trait, you search the top 6 cards of your deck for a drone trait card or an attachment, you reveal it, you add it to your hand. Looks like Shadowsun came across a copy of Exploratory Drone. It's a 1-cost 0/2 when it's sitting at a planet whenever you deploy a non-Tau unit at the same planet, I believe. You can move it to an adjacent planet. So at planet number 1, that exploratory drone touches down. At planet 2, we've now got a copy of Soul Grinder. At planet 3, a Splintered Path Acolyte makes a momentary appearance, and that is a 1-cost 1/1 with a command icon that you can sacrifice to decrease the next demon's cost you play by 2. Note that Slaaneash's Temptation is still alive and well, and that's continuing to increase the cost of all of these cards played by Shadowsun, not at planet 3 by 1. So that Exploratory Drone costs 2, the Earthcast Technician costs 2. We've got a couple of Chaos Elites at planet 2, plus we've got a copy of Barzul's Cleavers. We've got a Ravenous Fleshhounds. It's going to be a 5-cost 3, I believe 5, with a command icon. Maybe it has 6 HP. But at any point as an action, you can sacrifice a cultist in order to strip all of the damage off of it. But at Planet 2, we've got a copy of the 3/3 Righteous Initiate. We've got a copy of a 1/1 Righteous Initiate that's got gun drones on it, and then we've also got that Fire Drake Terminators, which is still a 5/8, even though it really hasn't been able to do much. We've now got a copy of Promotion on that Soul Grinder, and let's see where we send our Warlords for command. Shadowsun is going to want to show up someplace very safe, probably planet number 3, and Barzul is going to have to either show up at planet 1 or 3. Like, Barzul could probably win at planet number 1 by himself. I guess Shadowsun's got initiative. If Shadowsun goes to 3, she'll be able to kill that rogue trader and remove Slaaneash's Temptation. If Barzul arrives at 1, Barzul is going to be able to, kill an Earthcast Technician and the exploratory drone. And it's not as if Shadowsun is going to be able to dump a Shadowsun stealth cadre onto the exploratory drone and transform it into a 2/4 that could threaten Barzul or anything like that. So looks like Shadowsun goes to planet 2, and Barzul arrives at planet number 1. So wow, I guess this is going to be Commander Shadowsun ensuring that she's not going to lose a command struggle opposite that 4 command icon Soul Grinder. But now Shadowsun's going to have to use her first combat turn to retreat, because otherwise she is risking being destroyed by the Soul Grinder or a 4 attack value Barzul's Cleavers. But planet number 1, that's going to be 2 resources and a card for Barzul. Planet 2 is going to be a card and a resource for Shadowsun, and planet number 3 is going to be a couple of resources for Barzul. So let's see. We've got the Keru Arameus. We could trigger a battle. I believe it has to be at a non-first planet where there are no warlords, I believe is the explicit phrasing of that card. No reason to trigger a battle at 3 or 2 or anything like that. So planet number 1 looks like Barzul retreats straight away as his first combat action. He doesn't want to risk a modified 2-cost Eager Recruit being dropped into play and destroying him, I can only imagine. And now it's going to be that Earthcast Technician dealing a couple of points of damage to the Bloodied Reavers. Maybe it has an off-screen attachment that I'm not quite privy to. Or perhaps there's an additional unit at planet number 1, but I guess we're about to find out. That's going to be +1 resource at planet 1 for Martin. It's going to be -1 resource for Soren, and I am a little bit mystified as to what exactly happened at planet number 1. How was the Bloodied Reavers brought from 0 damage to 0 hit points in the context of a Earthcast Technician and an exploratory drone? But maybe I'm just going crazy and missing the obvious. But Barzul retreated from that planet. It seems like it would have been awfully safe for him to maybe kill that Earthcast Technician, but I cannot tell how many hit points he's got. He could be sitting on 1 hit point, and if that's the case, then it was probably smart that he retreated. But I guess let's see what exactly happens here. This is going to be 2 green strongpoint icons in Barzul's HQ. It's going to be, in Shadowsun's HQ. And looks like our players are having to use all kinds of tokens to represent different things. So Shadowsun retreated from the battle at planet number 2. That Barzul's Cleavers, I guess what exactly is happening? We've got as our first action Blood for the Blood God. Or maybe we don't. Okay, so let's see what happens. All right, so that's, let's say, 2 points of damage to the Barzul's Cleavers. It's going to swing for a total of 4, and because of its action, and that did result in it being able to kill that Righteous Initiate. So the Righteous Initiate only had 2 hit points. Unstoppable is only able to prevent 1 point of damage. If Shadowsun didn't have a 2 shield value card, then that is a dead area effect 2 unit. We've got a Righteous Initiate that's going to be undamaged. It's attacking for 3. It's a 3/3 currently, but it's still got the untriggered Unstoppable specialization. And is it going to be trying to kill off Barzul's Cleavers? I guess what exactly are we going to see? That Fire Drake Terminators is going to be able to attack for a colossal 5 in total. The Ravenous Fleshhounds would probably be a pretty damn decent target. Like, if it were me, I'd be sorely tempted to use my Fire Drake Terminators to try to kill the Ravenous Fleshhounds if they've got 5 hit points. They may have 6. I sincerely apologize for not better researching these cards prior to this video. The Fire Drake Terminators, however, does decide on a target. The recipient of its assault is the Soul Grinder, and we've probably got at least a couple of copies of Crushing Blow. Yep, there we go. I was going to say, he's, kind of thrown that on the table a time or two before. So 5 plus 1 is 6. If you don't shield, that is a dead Soul Grinder, unpreventable damage courtesy of Crushing Blow. The Ravenous Fleshhounds takes a point of damage because it declared the Fire Drake Terminators as a defender, and that's going to be some more resource-style damage dealt to the Fire Drake Terminators. They take 3 from the Ravenous Fleshhounds. Now, it's going to be the Righteous Initiate with the opportunity to attack for 3, and there's really no time like the present to try to kill off that copy of Barzul's Cleavers, and now things are looking rather difficult for Barzul to try to overcome this. So let's see. Righteous Initiate does manage to kill that copy of Barzul's Cleavers, and now we come to the end of a combat round. Our Chaos player is going to have the opportunity to attack first. He's still got at least a 3-4, if not 3-5 unit, but he does decide to retreat. That's going to be Aatrox Prime, dealing a point of damage to the HQ of Barzul. We see Blood for the Blood God discarded as a shield to possibly prevent Barzul from being destroyed. I wish I knew exactly how many damage tokens there were stacked up there. We go through another HQ phase. That is 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players. And now, what exactly are we going to see? Just a fair warning, this video does happen to cut out right before our victory because the camera actually dies, but it should be abundantly clear when we get to that point who our victor ends up being, so keep your eyes peeled. Either Commander Shadowsun or Barzul the Hatebound could very, very easily end up being assassinated, so it's still totally up in the air, anyone's game at this point, but it is kind of going to come down to planet number 1. If Shadowsun manages to win at planet number 1, that is going to be 3 tech icons added to her victory display, and that is going to be the victory for her right there. Or it's looking like it's potentially also Barzul's victory planet because Barzul has 2 red icons in his victory display. So we've got another copy of Splintered Path Acolyte at planet number 2. That Slaaneish's Temptation has been doing incredibly dirty things all game long. We've got a copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas at planet number 1. That's something like the 12th resource that Salem Enclave has saved. Martin, who's just been spending resources fearlessly, even in the context of that Slaaneish's Temptation. We've got our 3rd copy of Soul Grinder, played at planet number 1. Tactical Squad Cardenas is a 2-cost, 1 command icon, 1/3 with area effect 1, and we've got a Hellion Gang at the same planet. It's a 2-cost, 2/2, 1 command icon with flying. Shadowsun played a copy of her signature support, the Communications Relay, and whenever one of your units with an attachment is the effect or target, well, whenever it's targeted by a card ability, you simply exhaust that support in order to cancel that effect in its entirety. So let us see how this game concludes. It's all going to come down to this round. If Barzul commits himself to planet number 1, he's going to be in huge jeopardy, and the same thing goes for Shadowsun. Our initiative token is currently I cannot see the Aquila anywhere in this video, but I guess, like, if either player shows up, they're risking their Warlord being destroyed at planet number 1, I mean, and I guess if both of our players send, if both of our players send their respective Warlords to planet number 2, things are looking really grim at planet number 1. It's only 3 command icons for our Chaos player. It's 2, 4, 5 command icons, 6 command icons at planet number 1 for our Space Marines. So yeah, I guess let's see where our players send their Warlords. Looks like Barzul has decided to show up at planet number 1. Shadowsun has arrived at planet number 2, and that's going to be that Righteous Initiate as a 3/3 with the Unstoppable specialization. That is the 5/8 Fire Drake Terminator at that planet. We've got a copy of Gun Drones that was sacrificed because Barzul showed up, and there's that Soul Grinder present, but all we're going to see is, yep, Barzul uses his first combat turn to retreat, and now it's going to be a 5/8. It's going to be that 3/3 with the Unstoppable specialization, and it's going to be Area Effect 1 currently being resolved. This is about where our camera is going to cut out, but my dear viewers, congratulations, I think, in this match to Commander Shadowsun. I don't really see there being anything that our Chaos player could have done to be able to win the match at this point. Barzul left, Tactical Squad Cardenas dealt a point of area effect damage to each of these extant units. That would have been the Ravenous Fleshhounds nearly dead with just 2 or 3 hit points remaining. There are no cultists on the board able to be sacrificed. The Hellion Gang would have been halfway dead. A copy of Crushing Blow could have dealt a killing blow to the Hellion Gang. The Soul Grinder could have attempted to damage that Fire Drake Terminators, but the Terminators itself as a 5/8 easily would have been able to direct a sufficient amount of firepower toward that Soul Grinder to end up destroying it without too much trouble at all. So we also had that copy of the Righteous Initiate. It was a 3/3. The instant that it took damage for the first time, you would have prevented the first point. You could have shielded it to make sure it was not killed. It would have been boosted up to 5 attack until the remainder of the phase, or for the remainder of the phase. And just like I said, there was, I don't think anything that a 0 resource Barzul the Hatebound could have done to be able to win this game. I guess he would have picked up a resource from our first planet. Shadowsun had picked up a resource from planet number 2, but it was just too little too late, and our Chaos player was unable to overcome the might of so many Space Marines with so many powerful attachments. But regardless, let's say congratulations to Martin Kriegsbaum for managing to beat Barzul the Hatebound, but nevertheless, thank you so much to Søren Pedersen for a game well played, and for going through all the trouble of recording this game and sending me in the footage. I very much appreciate his effort. Hopefully any and all subsequent attempts at recording gameplay will only stand to be even better than this video in regard to angle and quality and everything staying abundantly on screen. But I did enjoy today's game. I hope that you too, the viewer, did as well. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever, you're encouraged to share this content, because the more individuals there are that engage with these videos, more people are exposed to Conquest. They might pick up this living card game, give it a try, join our community, and together we send the message to Fantasy Flight Games demanding they continue to develop this fantastic product. If you want to get in touch with me, reach out on Facebook or on Twitter. I would always love to hear from you, whether it's directly, whether it's in the comments section. If you yourself are a content creator, definitely get in touch so I can help promote your content on my Facebook and on my Twitter. And if you ever feel any inclination to give back and support this channel, I would be absolutely honored, even if you were to donate as little as $1 to me through my Patreon. It all helps cover file hosting and operating expenses, and each and every additional dollar just goes back to being reinvested into improving the existing audio and video quality of the content that I produce. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and once again, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.